Hello.
Afternoon.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, that's great. Selamat sore. It's the good afternoon in my language, and also sawadika. I'm happy to welcome you to our side event. And then first of all, I would like to thanking everyone for joining the side event. Given that maybe we have like other competing priorities, I know it's a challenging time for many of us to navigate our schedule, addressing digital divide. So we really appreciate those who are here and really looking forward for a good discussion today. This event is also live streamed at ISEA's page. So for those who are missing, I think that we can actually see it later in the Facebook page of ISEA. So just to continue again, right? So we have like our site event today has the title that is very interesting, which is Social Entrepreneurship SDG Platforms. And then we want to know what it is, right? And then also the Social Entrepreneurship SDG Platform towards building back fairer in Asia and the Pacific. So the title itself is also very interesting because introducing what is actually building back fairer in Asia and Pacific region. And then this event is organized by the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia and the Pacific and regional CSO engagement mechanism. So I think that all of us know what is Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia and the Pacific. ISEA is I'm really proud to have ISEA as a focal point of the social and community enterprise constituency of Asia Pacific Regional CSO engagement mechanism. And then I want to introduce myself to all of you. My name is Wardarina. I'm actually coming from an organization, a feminist organization called Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development. And currently we are the women constituency focal point and also the co-chair of Asia Pacific Regional CSO engagement mechanism. And then now I'm actually like doing this live in the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. This is the UN hallway. And then as you can see, none of people here because we still have our session for the voluntary national review in the FPFSD, but we are very happy to actually welcome all of you who are coming to this site event. So just a little bit of background, what we are trying to do, and then I want to introduce you to the session. In September 2019, we know that the United Nations recognized the role of the social enterprise as accelerator to the SDG in following the announcement of the UN Decade of Action. Then, just right after the 2019, then the pandemic happened. Social enterprises were not spared. They faced the difficult situation of serving marginalized sector while ensuring business operations are still afloat. And then also a social mission driven enterprises, the poor this social enterprise engage as workers, suppliers, clients, co-owners, and partner include small farmers, backyard livestock raiser, agriculture workers, fishers, indigenous communities, informal settlers, craft communities, the enterprising and entrepreneurial poor, migrant workers, person with disability, and the women of these sectors. So social enterprise responses to the COVID-19 pandemic really encompasses a wide range of initiatives. We know that. Many are doing their share in undertaking relief operation to stem the hunger among the stakeholders and partner communities. Beyond relief, social enterprises and their partner resource institutions are providing inspiration and hope. So it's not only like giving relief, but also the hope that is very important in this time of pandemic. and then transforming threats into opportunities and introducing innovative measures and pathway towards building back better at various levels. And then in September 2020, ISEA, together with UNESCO, have co-convened the Social Entrepreneurship Advocacy and Leveraging Asia Conference. That conference 5 multi-stakeholder platforms which the social enterprise sector in Asia have been developing, and then we were launching it that time. So this site event, we will hear from all the 5 today. We are so lucky now that we can actually hear experience and also critical discussion in relation with all these 5 platforms. Although these collaborative platforms are for learning and exchange of experience and best practices among stakeholders, so this is one of the key objective of the platform. It also for developing and projecting collective impacts, especially in the time of the recovery of the social enterprises and the poverty sector they serve, and then also developing and advocating changes in government policy and programs. And then this is why it is very important to build the power, together, and then how we build and advocating changes for the policy and the program of the government. And then lastly is also to attract and generating commitments and support, because of course we need support, especially for resources coming from a different actors. So these are the objective, of the platform itself. Today we are, again, I'm saying that we are lucky that we have the 5 platform able to present their work, their experience, and then also what they're aiming to do. It's very, very interesting for us to hear. We have a very good 5 speakers today. We're going to actually, try to make sure that the speaker will be able to deliver their presentation for 10 minutes. For each of the speakers. And then later on, what we are aiming to do is actually when the speakers is having their presentation, and then to make use of this digital, digital platform that we have, please put your comments and then reactions, your kind of support and also questions in the chat box while the presenters speak. That will enable us to actually have a more effective discussion later on when we are having our question and answer. So I'm going to introduce now the first speaker, and then this person is someone that is very close also to our movements here in APRSEM. Her name is Marilisa Dakanai. She is the president of ISEA. And then Lisa just presented also a very strong intervention yesterday in the hall of the EPFSD, and then it was great. It was, I think, that the first day, Lisa, that you talk about the regional progress of the SDG coming from the perspective of the social enterprise. That's really great. And then Lisa now will share on the multi-stakeholder platform on something very close to me as a feminist organization on women empowerment, livelihood, and food. So Lisa, I will give the floor to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Rina. And I'm really pleased to be the first speaker to kick off this discussion on social entrepreneurship SDG acceleration platforms. And as has been pointed out, I will be speaking about the women's empowerment, livelihood, and food in agricultural value chains platform. So may I request the assistance for presenting the slides, please? Yes. So the We Live Food platform, no? The Women's Empowerment, Livelihood, and Food multi-stakeholder platform has actually is doing many things, but given the time constraint of 10 minutes, I'm going to be focusing on the enabling policies that we're trying to enshrine in the Asia-Pacific region in order for us to promote transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains. No? So next slide, please. Just to give you a sense of the entire work that we're doing, we're actually working with agricultural value chain practitioners and support institutions. And our focus areas of intervention are Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. And here we are assisting social enterprises, inclusive businesses, small and medium enterprises, and corporate agribusinesses with an inclusive recovery plan, because as we know, with COVID-19, we cannot just go ahead and promote building back fairer and building back better approaches. We will need to actually assist social enterprises and the poor recover. So we're assisting in the process of inclusive recovery planning. And at the same time, we're piloting a set of benchmarks for transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains, a set of scorecards that we are using to evaluate and plan. The scorecards are evaluation and planning tools to improve the practice of social enterprises, SMEs, and corporate agribusinesses in building back fairer. No? And the benchmarks is, I will be presenting that to you briefly, but the other thing that we're doing, apart from working with agricultural value chain practitioners, is actually working with governments. And here we are developing and advocating a set of policies to enable and incentivize the practice of the benchmarks for transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains, which we are calling the guidelines. No? So we're doing this in ASEAN and ASEAN member states, and our focus areas of intervention are the Philippines and Indonesia, even as we're actually engaging the whole of the ASEAN at the ASEAN economic community level to actually shift policies towards incentivizing the benchmark. And here, we're also starting to engage the Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, as well as stakeholder governments and other stakeholders in the region involved in agricultural value chains to actually help us promote these guidelines. No? So let me now go into the next slide about the guiding principles of the benchmarks for transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains. There are 8. This resulted from a research that we did on best practices of social enterprises and inclusive businesses that have had a great impact on women and men small-scale producers. So in a manner of speaking, these 8 guiding principles are the guiding principles that were culled from the best practices that showed success in creating impact on women and men small-scale producers. And they're about engaging the small producers through appropriate technology and community-based and oriented innovations, ensuring that the women and men small producers are able to get a more substantive share of value by helping them move up the value chain, not only as producers, but also as processors and marketers of their own brands. And then the 3rd principle is about food security and resilience. The 4th is about the empowerment of small producers, ensuring that they are organized into women and men small producers cooperatives or associations, effectively engaged in value chain development. The 5th principle is about their stewardship and sustainable consumption and production. The 6th is about ensuring that a combination of transactional and transformational services are provided to the women and men small-scale producers so that they're not just assisted to become workers, suppliers, and clients, but they're actually engaged to become transformational partners in their own development. No? And that's the reason why there's a need for a combination of services and not just the transactional services. The 7th principle is about ensuring women's participation and empowerment. And the 8th is about measurable outcomes of transformation, that the engagement with women and men small-scale producers and the partnerships that go with it result to measurable outcomes of transformation at the level of the households, their communities, and the value chains and economic subsectors. So having said this, we came up with a set of guidelines for transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains that are actually going to help in enabling and incentivizing practitioners to practice the benchmarks. No? And we came up with 5. The first has to do with innovation towards food security, resilience, and empowerment of small producers. The second has to do with women's economic empowerment across all functions of the value chain. The third is about sustainable consumption and production towards climate resilient and green economy. The fourth is about the recognition and support for social enterprises and inclusive businesses as enabling partners. And the fifth is about cross-sectoral and multi-stakeholder platforms towards accelerating the SDGs. Let me go into these five guidelines one by one. Next slide, please. The first guideline for transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains, which means that this is about the enabling policy and incentives that can be provided by governments, about innovative ABC development support programs that create food secure, resilient, and empowered small producer communities. There are four sub-guidelines. The first has to do with promoting appropriate technology and community-based oriented innovations that are friendly not only to men small producers, but women small producers as well. The second is progressively positioning women and men small producers to reap a more substantive share of value created over time, as I said, by moving them up the value chain. And then third is about proactively ensuring food security and building the resilience of women and men small-scale producers to health pandemics, natural, social, and economic disasters, so that no matter what the value chain is, whether they're involved in food or non-food, it's important that there's a proactive assurance that food security is developed among the small producers communities through diversification, of course, at the farm level. And then the fourth has to do with paving the way for the empowerment of small producers to become actors in their own development and that of their community and sector, so that this has to do with supporting the women and men small producers to be organized in the agricultural value chain. So the second set of guidelines that have to do, next slide please, that have to do with investments that expand and enable women's economic empowerment spanning all ABC functions and organizations engaged in ABC development, management, and governance. There are two sub-guidelines. The first has to do with proactively choosing value chains and investing in transparent and accountable value chain development practices that enhance women's participation and empowerment as stakeholders in production, consolidation, processing, marketing, and all other functions that produce and deliver agricultural products to markets. This is very important because at the moment, women are invisible in agricultural value chains. So what we're saying is there has to be a proactive way of choosing and investing in value chains to make the women stakeholders in all functions. The second has to do with proactively investing in developing women as individuals and in groups, not only in the formal economy, but likewise in agriculture and in the informal sector, to become entrepreneurs as well as leaders and stakeholders of social enterprises, inclusive businesses, and other relevant organizations promoting women's economic empowerment. This has to do with ensuring that women actually are able to not only become part economic actors, but also become actors in their own development, as individuals and in groups. And most of the policies and programs about women's economic empowerment at the moment are directed at entrepreneurs, and directed at women in the formal economy. That's the reason why we're saying that there needs to be greater emphasis on women in agriculture and the informal sector to be subjects of empowerment. So third slide, the next slide, please. The third guideline has to do with investments in sustainable consumption and production systems that enable women and men small producers as stakeholders in achieving a climate resilient and green economy. And there are two sub-guidelines related to this. The first has to do with supporting investments and practices promoting sustainable consumption and production that pave the way for women and men small producers to become stewards of the natural resource base, sustaining their livelihoods and enterprises. So in the communities where they become stewards in protecting their natural resource base. But the second guideline has to do with supporting investments and practices promoting sustainable consumption and production that enable women and men small producers to effectively adopt as well as to adapt technologies and practices in value chain functions beyond production that contribute to climate resilience and a green economy. So this has to do with sustainable consumption and production, not only at the level of production, but in the whole, in all functions of the value chain. Next slide, please. The fourth has to do with guidelines related to recognition and support programs, including hybrid financing. And when we say hybrid financing, we mean a combination of loans that are the loans and of course grants as well, in order for the hybrid financing to support what we were calling transactional and transformational services. In order to help capacitate the poor in social enterprises, we need grants, yeah? But in relation to enterprise financing, we of course need also loans, and maybe in the time of pandemic, what we need are soft loans, as well as non-collateralized loans with a guarantee fund pool from government. And so we're talking here about investment in and incentivizing agricultural value chain interventions that provide this kind of hybrid financing to support transactional and transformational services among women and men small-scale producers, so that they can effectively participate in value chain development as well as community and sectoral development that is equitable and sustainable. And secondly, it's about recognizing and enabling social enterprises and inclusive businesses as key stakeholders in empowering women and men small producers in agricultural value chain development and interventions. A number of countries have already enshrined policies related to inclusive businesses. A fewer have enshrined policies about social enterprises, and so much more needs to be done to recognize and enable social enterprises, especially in agricultural value chains, so that they can serve as transformational partners of the poor in agricultural value chain development. The fifth guideline, next slide please, is about a guideline supporting cross-sectoral collaboration and multi-stakeholder platforms that mainstream sustainable agriculture, transformational partnerships, and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains towards measurable social impact and accelerating the SDGs. No? And in relation to this, there are two main sub-guidelines. The first has to do with investing and incentivizing programs that assist stakeholders in agricultural value chains to co-create social impact and measure outcomes of transformation, no? So that the partnerships result to transformational outcomes at the level of women and men small producers, households and communities, and value chains and economic subsectors. And second is to enable cross-sectoral collaboration and multi-stakeholder platforms that promote the practice and mainstreaming of the benchmarks for transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains towards accelerating the SDGs. No? And in Asia-Pacific region, we know of at least two cross-sectoral collaboration platforms, such as the We Live Food platform that we're presenting to you now, and also the Grow Asia platform that is actually engaging governments for sustainable agriculture as well as the private sector. Last slide, please. Next slide. So what we're hoping that the guidelines for transformational partnerships and women's economic empowerment in agricultural value chains could do is that they could provide concrete ways forward for governments in Asia Pacific to enable agricultural value chain practitioners, no? Not only social enterprises, but inclusive businesses, SMEs, as well as agricultural corporations to significantly contribute to fostering innovation towards food security, resilience, and empowerment of small producers, enabling women's economic empowerment in all functions of the value chain and in value chain governance, promoting sustainable consumption and production in agricultural value chains for climate resilience and a green economy, recognizing and supporting social enterprises and inclusive businesses as enabling partners of government and small producers in agricultural value chains, and finally, accelerating the SDGs through multi-stakeholder platforms, mainstreaming sustainable agriculture, women's economic empowerment, and transformational partnerships and agricultural value chains. Thank you very much. Back to you, Rina.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Lisa. I think that is really clear, very, very clear elaboration on the principles and also the guidelines. So we really, really appreciate that. I think that we also have like some comments from the chat box, Lisa, from Auke. And then he said that I think we could add access to renewable energy to the 8 guiding principle of the BTP, WEE, and FECs. This is something that we can discuss later on in the open forum. And thank you so much for the comments. Now we can move on to the next speaker. I'm going to ask Selena Perez. She's from the business development. She is the business development director of Celine Fair Trade. She's coming from Sri Lanka, a guaranteed fair trade World Fair Trade Organization member in Asia, and we'll share on the platform, on very important also this platform on decent work for all in the sustainable value chains. So Selena, I hope you are there and ready. Yeah, can I see?
I'm there. I'm here.
Okay, okay, that's good. Yeah,
Yes,
so go
I'm
ahead.
here and ready.
Please go ahead and
Yeah,
take the
let me
floor.
just share my screen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rina. And let me just share my screen. Um, can you all see my screen? Rina, is that okay?
Yes, it's very good.
Okay.
We can see it
Okay.
that clear. Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you so much for having the WFTO Asia represented here. I have to have a disclaimer. I am representing Mitos, who is the president of WFTO Asia, as she is right now in the borders of Myanmar and Thailand doing some very important work. So I hope I do justice to the work that really has been done. What I'm going to attempt to do is to talk about the platform, the work of the platform, and also really bring maybe some practical aspects from the work that we do in the WFTO Asia and in Sri Lanka, maybe to substantiate some of the work that the platform intends and is doing. So again, I'll just move on to the work. Right. So as you all know, the Decent Work for All in Sustainable Value Chains platform, what it really is attempting to do is, as in a whole, to create the partnerships, the enabling environment, and the collaborations needed to further decent work. So you will see that the platform seeks to work in sustainable value chains, to enable social enterprises to build back and to build back fairer in this kind of, I don't think the word post-COVID is relevant, because I think we're very much still in the COVID phase. But in this world today, in the present context, we are also, the platform is looking at, uh, and this work becomes very important because the gaps in the value chains has really been exposed and exacerbated due to the pandemic. And we see that working on the ground across Asia, I think this is becoming more and more apparent. So what the platform really is trying to do, like I said at the start, is to bridge these gaps through enabling these partnerships and giving access up-to-date information, furthering market access, and creating benefit for participating organizations. And from my personal experience too, I can validate this work, because you can see these are the areas that really need to be looked at in order to enable organizations to enable decent work for all. Especially when you look at the up-to-date information, the information sharing, the democratization of data, and the integration of technology to really enable organizations to work better and to build back better, it becomes crucial at this moment. And this is the work that the platform is really hoping to further. Yes, so if we go to, the next slide. So in order to enable those platforms and to enable those partnerships to within the platform, there are a few areas that have been picked out. So one of the things, as you can see on the screen, there is an intention to showcase strong case studies on models, social enterprise models, because again, working in the sector, it is very clear that one size doesn't fit all. We have to understand context. And while we can be inspired and absolutely inspired by the work that is done across the region, while showcasing this, there's also a need to then kind of contextualize it, each country, each region, each community. So what the platform hopes to do is to really give that, platform to share the real experiences, to document these best practices and cutting edge practices, and to enable the kind of research and the documentation that is really going to be used by practitioners on the ground to contextualize and to do their work better. And in a way, it's what it wants to do is to really create this education and information mechanism. And that way, so that's one of the areas that the platform hopes to do, because the gaps that have arisen, especially after COVID, like I said, has been exacerbated by this lack of information. So that's one area. And also on the other area, we are looking at acceleration, looking at capacity building. How can organizations really access market? How can organizations go from startup to the next level is in this context, because everything has changed. The way that you do business has changed. The way that you do social business has changed. The needs of our communities that were clear to us in January is no longer the needs of the communities as of present. So there is a lot a social business has to do, because I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's not just about changing and accelerating to meet our business goals, but changing and accelerating and building our own capacity to meet the goals that we want to serve to our community and to our environment. So this two-pronged approach of the platform is to enable that in a holistic manner. And this is some of the work that the platform has started. So primarily, the first example would be this digital platform that is created. Again, like I said, to facilitate the information sharing, the collaborations, the community building, because I think us in the social enterprise sector, it's been very clear to us that the future is really in this collaboration and not this competitive model that the businesses have been running for years and years and years. And the platform builds on that, the values that are embedded in social enterprises to create this kind of platform, to this kind of information sharing platforms, so that people can collaborate, so that people can share information, that network is there, the support system is there. So I think that becomes very important. And also, like I said, the other example is the Fair Trade Accelerator, which helps the companies to accelerate within this crisis. And it's very interesting that there is a Fair Trade Artisan Accelerator, because especially for someone like me who is coming from a traditional craft sector, the handloom sector in Sri Lanka, a particular focus on artisan and crafts and that industry, I think is very crucial. And it's very important that a very important distinction that the platform has made, because the strategies, the problems, the approaches have to really change. So these are the kind of work that the platform is doing. So what Mitos also wanted me to add was a real life example of how some of the work that the platform has taken on has actually been tried and tested in the post-COVID world. So again, to just introduce the Fair Trade Organization, we are a group of very many organizations across the world who are connected by the Fair Trade principles. We all run social enterprises and community organizations which impact people and planet. And WFTO Asia is the Asia chapter of the World Fair Trade Organization. And I just want to show to you, in giving the weight of the real life. Yes.
Selina, just to remind you, we have 3 minutes, yeah?
Yes.
All right, great.
So I'll go very fast. So this is the fear that we felt during the March 2020 lockdown. And then if we go right into, you can see very clearly how fast the WFTO took action to ensure that in 2 weeks, action was taken to ensure that the WFTO Asia members would pivot to meet the kind of the production issues and the order cancellations that we had during this time. So what did we do? We created masks. We created fabric masks. We marketed it called the People's Mask. And in that way, we have managed to, as an organization network across the world, we have managed to sell over 700,000 masks to date. And this has helped fair trade organizations to pivot and to really meet the needs of our community. So I think this is a wonderful example of the partnerships, the collaborations, the information sharing, the networks that have all come together to essentially enable decent work for the communities that we live in. So I'm not going to get into that because that is exactly what I said again. But in the interest of time, maybe I will stop here to say that in providing decent work to the communities and to the in promoting this dialogue across the world, what we social enterprises too have to do is innovate, create. And this is an example of a campaign that we're running in Sri Lanka right now to meet the menstrual hygiene needs of our communities. It's self-explanatory. We create the product, and through a buy one gift one campaign, we gift with an awareness session on menstrual hygiene to the communities in need. So very small example of how when there's innovation, there's creativity, and there is networking across supply chains, that you can really enable organizations and communities, organizations to provide decent work and communities to benefit from it. So Rina, in the interest of time, I will stop now. I think I'm probably right on mark, but looking forward to the discussions, and I hope I did meet us proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Selena. I'm actually very sad needs to cut you because I was like really, interested to know more examples about the innovation that you already made, and then also the initiative. I mean, like the example that you showed, the people's mass with 700,000 masks is already like produced and also distributed is really amazing. And then I also like the way that you really, I think, pinpoint one thing that is important on the social enterprise principle is all about collaboration and not competition. I really like that. Thank you so much, Selena. I think, I hope that people also put your comments and question to Selena's presentation, and then we can go later on during the question and answer. And then now I'm going to go to my fellow Indonesians. I'm also from Indonesia. Her name is Dr. Yeni Purnamasari. She is the manager and health division of Dompet Duafa. And then we know Dompet Duafa, everyone from Indonesia would know Dompet Duafa is a very big, credible organization. And then Yeni is going to talk about the platform on the health for all. So Yeni, nice to know you. Go ahead. Is Yeni here? I just want to check.
Okay, I'm here. Thank you for the...
Okay, Yeni, there's some echo. There's some echo. Maybe turn on one of the audio so it's not echoing. Turn off one of the audio. All right. Can you try to speak again? Hi, Yeni. Maybe, yeah, you need, okay, let's see, how is it? We can hear, I think there's an audio. Yes, it's okay. I think that the echo is coming from double device. Maybe you can actually just turn off one of your device.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
Oh,
want
it's
to
good.
do my presentation.
It's
Please?
good now. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you, Yeni.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to present about the training for healthcare services in pandemic era, which Dompet Duafa experience. Next slide.
Hi, Yeni. I think that your voice a little bit choppy. Can you try again to speak?
Voice is clear?
My voice clear?
No, the voice is a little bit choppy because we cannot hear well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I try again.
Yes, now it's better. Can you try again?
Okay. It's clear? It's
Yes,
clear?
it's better now. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to present about taking proper people services, health services in pandemic era, which is dapat apa experience. Next slide, please. Yes.
Okay. I want to the universal health coverage is lack of challenge. Many people is worldwide lack access to essential health services, and in developing countries are impoverished or further impoverished as a result of having to pay for the healthcare they need. Next slide, please. Yes. Poverty is the impoverished, weak, poor, operates with the people lack of access to healthcare, access to knowledge and skill, access to economic resources, and also access to spiritual value. And then the productivity is decreased. In the pandemic era, access of universal health coverage and essential healthcare services is limited. We found in the area program, we provide philanthropreneurship, which the poverty line is curative based. We are endowment fund based company, and then profit for the poor people is by share prosperity and then business network, market expansion, and social enterprise. And then in promotive and preventive community-based health program with the zakat, donation, and give, we provide local commodity and empowerment communities to produce healthy food production garden and product of designated people. We are to bridge the social enterprise system with healthy community and priority of healthcare problem. Next slide. Yes, this is the healthcare social enterprise model. We provide health for all and advocacy works, economic empowerment, social education, and healthcare services in one area. And then opening access. We are justice and economic growth in the healthcare area model in Indonesia. Next slide. Yes. Yes, thank you. History of health care services in Dompet Duafa since 2001, and with giving donation to people who need funds to get health services. For patients are served in several hospitals, which are the practice place for volunteer doctor. Then Dompet Duafa initiated the establishment for free health services with basic service and referral to government hospital, free of charge health services with zakat, donation, and gift funding, and government public health insurance financing. Then by verifying to eligibility mustahik according to government and world poverty standard. In the year 2010, Dompet Duafa building the organization hospital with a comprehensive model health services from upstream to downstream. The model developed is the addiction clinic and hospital services in individual health services, facility, and community program in various regions in Indonesia. Next slide, please. The area services is promotive, preventive, curative, and then we provide community empowerment and blended finance with pentahelic model. And then we provide clinical and hospital. Next slide, please. In our healthcare model, we are yes. Healthcare delivery is the holistic approach from preventive, promotive with sustainable individual and community education, health screening, and elderly diagnosis based on empowerment, the volunteer in community, and then secondary prevention, health intervention until rehabilitation to disability limitation in hospital network, Dompet Duafa. Next slide, please. Yes. To ensure the sustainability of the program Dompet Duafa developed the pentahelic model approach with the where each party has a mutually reinforcing role and support, and then we support SDGs cover and the goal 2, 3, 5, and 6. Next slide. We is bridging gap health for all, and this is our health empowerment network Dompet Duafa in Indonesia. Then this is the many program healthcare in Indonesia, and in pandemic era, we still program in area Dompet Duafa in Indonesia. Next slide, please. Yes, this is our primary clinic in many places is Indonesia, and this ambulance and then bike to transportation to healthcare services for poor people. Next slide. This is Dompet Duafa hospital network in many places in Indonesia, in Jakarta, West Java, and then the Pekanbaru and etc. Next slide, please. Yes, this is our proof for hospital, 8 hospital for poor people in many places in Indonesia. Next slide. Yes, this is the pentahelic model. We to develop approach and has a mutually reinforcing role and support. This model connect to the role of multi-stakeholder in clinic and hospital-based healthcare system with financing partnership. In community empowerment, financing model development and collaboration. We are many cooperation with company and private sector, academic, in faculty and institutional, local government, and Ministry of Health from central to local, and then empowering by optimizing local resources and volunteer. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yes, this is integrated health zone. We to portfolio the area focus on SDGs issue. and 7 main health indicator with stunting elimination, mother and child health, and then sanitation, and then communicable disease and non-communicable disease. We are build community health empowerment model in one area, and then we are cooperation with any stakeholder, many stakeholder to sustainability model. Next slide.
Yes, Dr. Yeni, if you can wrap up also because the time is running out.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the Dompet Duafa COVID Response Program, Crisis Center Hotline, education, and then we provide funeral services, ambulance service, then and etc. Next slide. Next slide, please. COVID service distribution map in Indonesia. We all are also a province in Indonesia, and this the center is Central Java in Jakarta. Next slide, please. This is resources mobilization Dompet Duafa. We are 8 hospital and 2 container hospital to COVID response. We many volunteer, testing and tracing mobile, provide ambulance, volunteer psychologists, funeral ambulance, cooperation partner, and then resources of medical doctor and health worker. Next slide. Yes. This is the COVID response area, Dompet Duafa, with the area based on citizen association or village with focus in community resilient program in monitoring in health status of the people in this area, prevention, managing incident, and preventing the wider impact of the pandemic in the health, social, and economic sector of the people in this area. This is the cycle of intervention, the program, and this is main program. Next slide.
Dr. Yani, I think I need to ask you to wrap up. Is this the last slide?
Yes, this is
Yes.
the slide. This is the end slide. Thank you.
Okay.
Perspective of vaccination COVID, main issue in Indonesia is education and information, and then access to all target people and effectiveness and safety. Thank you for the chance.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yeni. I'm really sorry that I need to cut your presentation a little bit. It's actually really interesting. I really want to know more about the vaccination approach of the Dompet Duafa and etc. But maybe we can actually have it during the discussion. Yeah, we have other speakers that also in the lineup, 2 more speakers. One that I want to introduce to you is Lanying Zhang. Yeah, Lanying Zhang is leading a research and educational organization called Sources for Action. Sources for Action is actually the co-convening of the Rural Revitalization, Youth and Social Entrepreneurship Platform. Lanying, are you there? Can I? Okay, so I think that your camera is on. All right, the audio is also perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, you can take the floor. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm Lanying Zhang from the Sources for Action, which is outgrowth of a rural reconstruction movement in China in the past 20 years. And as a co-convener with the PRM, I'm representing also other members like IARR, International Institute of Rural Reconstruction in the Philippines, and the Rural Reconstruction Nepal, also Change Fusion Institute from Thailand, and Dan Foundation from India to present the platform on rural revitalization, social entrepreneurship, and youth. Of course, ASEA is also, as a focal point, is also part of this. And why rural revitalization? So I would like to share with you about, as we all have been taught in the schools about the evolution of the human history. And we have been experienced from primitive period and entering and starting then with the agricultural civilization, then industrialization, and now in the process of modernization, we're facing all sorts of crises like financial economic crisis, environmental crisis, and health crisis like the COVID we just experienced. Um, but one further study about the history of the earth, which help us to understand the life of the earth, and also from the cognition of the nature and materials. And from that point of view, I think we learned that in the long history of the farming civilization, and all the materials are in the process of a circulation so that it can sustain people living in the land depending on the agriculture. But when we started industrialization, and it often produces a lot of inorganic matters which cannot entering the state of life circulation. So it turned out to be quite a chaos, because it produced a lot of waste, produced a lot of hazards, and all this cannot be back to our material circulation for us to remain the sustainability. So in the process of facing current challenges, I think we have no way to look at the ecology, deep ecology, and to understand how we're going to look forward. So the challenge we look at is that industrialization often exploit the natural resources and bring a lot of pollutions, and also depressed the agricultural development, also people living depending on the sustainable agriculture. But even in the modernization process in the agriculture sector, we could also see on the right picture, traditional or kind of a village life is being built, being formed with a long history, along a harmony with the nature, good neighborhood, social cohesions, but also good livelihood with 100 social 100 enterprises depending based on the life where the people live. But industrialized agriculture drive the people out of the land, also pollute the soil. So the great challenge we are facing, and how we can find the solution, the next slides. If we look at the future, but we need to draw our lessons from the past. If we look at history, the smallholder farmers developed kind of sustainable agriculture, their livelihood, and also built their living areas based on the environment where they have. So it developed a diversified agricultural farming. We talk about upland, lowland, plain areas, coast, and hilly areas. So they have a multi ways of production based on the environment where they reside. And so the key, it can sustain our communities of humans for a long period. But industrialization era only have 200 years, but it has been brought us a lot of issues that we have no ways, and there's no way to solve unless we go look at the the past, the lessons, the experience, and looking forward, the eco civilization for our future. Next, next slides. And if we looking at the future towards a more ecological sound rural revitalization, and we have the soil, we have the environment, but people is the center. So the platform looking at how the local people, the ethnic groups, and also young generations who return their home to work on that, to work on the rural development and through the social enterprise development. But there's a quite a lot of experience from the social entrepreneurship development. From the history, there's a studies talking about a lot of elites from the rural areas, or we talk about rural leaders who have had experience of developing social enterprise to benefit the local people. So drawing from the experience, we hope that mobilize the youth and recognizing the value of the rural areas will be the key for us to achieve the SDG goals, which we are focused on ending hunger, reducing the gap between the rich and poor, reducing the gap between the urban and rural development, and also bring a happy life for the people living in the rural areas. Next slides. So the Rural Revitalization Youth and Social Enterprise platform will focus looking at the policy level, but also looking at the practice level, and also generate innovations from the youth, focusing on the social enterprise. So we talk about the value of rural areas. It sustains the livelihood, it protect the environment, it also have a cohesion with the society, with the community. So this type of practice and also innovations in the past for the social enterprise, we hope that we can through the case studies and also through the platform to exchange online and offline, to generate more experience for wider circulations, to mobilize the youth to started more innovations for social entrepreneurs development for the rural revitalization. In the process of this, we would like to also emphasize the balance between the urban and rural development. As we see all the world, especially Asia, although we are agricultural farming based community, but now urbanization also has a very strong wave. But we hope in the process of urbanization, we should emphasize also the rural value to balance the development between the urban and rural. So like the Taiji uh, picture I present, we should see the strengths of the urban life, but urban development, but we also should recognize the rural value. And rural vitalization is the key for us to taking the challenge and crisis we are facing now. And given worse than during the COVID-19, I think most of the cases happen in the urban areas, but in the rural areas, as long as you stay there and protect yourself with the village boundaries, and there is a kind, you can sustain, produce your own food. So this is a great, this is the lessons for us. That's why we promote platform for rural revitalization and promote, support social entrepreneurship development by the youth and for our sustainability, our human sustainability in the future. And this also is the realization of eco-civilization as we see. So hopefully, welcome all of you join our platform to share, to exchange your experience so that we can learn from each other and widen our perspective. And thank you very much. And I think youth is the hope, and ecological economy is the key, and social entrepreneurship development is the way to realize the ecological economy to achieve the sustainable development. And youth is the key players that we hope that we can provide support through this platform for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lan Ying. I think that is very, very substantive presentation, and I really enjoy it. And I really totally agree with you when you said that rural reconstruction is actually the core to reduce gaps in advancing SDGs. Really agree with that. And then also it's good to see how you work with what you said is work with the youth, local and ethnic groups of youth, and then how this platform is also aimed to reduce the gaps between rich and poor, and also between the urban and rural. Yeah, so I felt that is very, very powerful presentation, and I really like the way that you put forward the ecological economy that we need to have. Totally agree. So
Thank you.
nice is really great. And then I also want to, we have like one more presentation, last but not least. But before that, I'm just going to read out some that we have in the chat box, like Anchal Kumar asking whether that we will get the PowerPoint presentation and recording. And then the Secretariat already said, yes, we're going to, because like very, very substantive presentation that we have. And then I think that there are some comments in the chat box that we will read. So please make sure that everyone, when the presenter is speaking, you can actually put your comments, reaction, suggestion, or maybe question in the chat box. All right, so now the last one is I want to introduce Professor Albert Theo. He is a trustee of ISEA and is actually joining us from Hong Kong this afternoon. I think now is like, what time is it now, Professor Albert?
6:11.
6:11, okay.
Yes.
So he is leading the technological innovations for sustainable development. So this is very interesting, because with all this, you know, like trend and then also vibe on technology and etc. So we really want to hear from Professor Albert Theo, what does it mean for technological innovation for sustainable development, especially coming from the social enterprise point of view. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you very much, Rina, for the kind introduction. So a very good evening to everybody. Even though I'm based in Hong Kong, actually I'm quite new to Hong Kong. I've been here for about 2 years, and I'm originally from Singapore. Okay, so I would like to share with you what we are planning to do for the technological innovations for sustainable development platform. We are a very young platform, so we are the baby in the house. Okay, so this platform, currently we have 6 topics. We have identified 6 topics that we are interested in exploring further. So these topics are related to technology and to innovation. So the first topic that we are interested in exploring further is, how does a social enterprise get a community to buy into and to adopt an innovation? So we feel that to get adoption of an innovation, we probably need 3 conditions. First, ideally, the community should be involved in co-creating the innovation with the social enterprise. Second, the innovation should actually reflect the aspirations of the community and also should be able to address the community's priority needs. Third, it would be good if the innovation can harness the assets, the resources, the strengths of the community, because then that would result in community empowerment. So to give you a good example, a global example would be IDE. So IDE has been around for years. It was founded by the late Paul Pollack. So they were one of the pioneers in human-centered design. So over the years, they have designed and also sold a lot of technology solutions to poor farmers in rural communities in different parts of the world. So the human-centered design emphasizes that we listen to the community. So the community has a problem, we listen to the community, and then we co-create a technology solution. And very often that solution should reflect and should capture some of the community's own ideas and aspirations. The second issue that we are interested in is frugal innovation. So we believe that for a frugal innovation to be effectively adopted by a community, it has to fulfill 4 criteria. First, it has to be safe to use. Second, easy to use. Third, it can be swiftly, very quickly adopted or implemented. Fourth, it has to be affordable. Frugal innovations also provide the opportunity for the community to actually promote micro-entrepreneurship. So getting some of the community members to sell the technology, to sell the innovation to their neighbors. So using a micro-consignment model. A good example would be Waterroam, which is based in Singapore. So currently Waterroam sells affordable, very easy to use water filters to more than to communities in more than 20 countries around the world. So these are rural communities that do not have access to clean water. So in recent years, Waterroam has also gone into the micro-consignment model, where they actually train some of the community members to sell the water filters to their neighbors, so promoting micro-entrepreneurship. The third issue that we want to examine would be universal design, i.e., design that is accessible, that is disability friendly. So I think the key to coming up with universal design is to see people with disabilities as people with different abilities. So ideally, the social enterprise should partner people with different abilities to co-develop the universal designs and harnessing the assets and the strengths of the people with different abilities. And the social enterprise probably also needs to rope in other partners like businesses, like NGOs, because the social enterprise also needs to leverage their expertise and resources. So a good example would be our City Love, which is based in Taiwan. Our City Love not only manages an accessibility information platform, but in recent years, they act as a connector between businesses and people with different abilities. So the people with different abilities come on board as consultants to the businesses, especially businesses that are interested in becoming more accessible. Then the fourth issue that we like to examine is digital learning platform. So in the new normal of COVID-19, digital learning platforms have become very, very important in the area of education. So according to educators, the digital learning platform has 2 advantages over the more traditional pedagogies. For example, the digital learning platform allows students to create their own expensive content and contrast to the fixed content of a textbook. Second difference is the digital learning platform allows students to engage in proactive learning. and contrast that to the passive learning in a classroom teaching where it's mostly one way. So a good example would be M-Lang, which is based in Hong Kong. So M-Lang was set up basically to help two groups of students who were struggling to acquire a second language. So one group of students are the grassroots ethnic Chinese students who struggle to pick up English as their second language, and the other group are the ethnic minority students who struggle to pick up Chinese as their second language. And what is interesting in the M-Lang approach is the school teachers are key partners. So they actually are the ones who work closely with M-Lang to develop the platform. And then they are the ones who would be working with the students to maximize, to optimize their learning outcomes. Then the next issue we are interested in is how does a social enterprise promote social sustainability, environmental sustainability, and economic sustainability. So there's potential for the social enterprise to promote social sustainability if it can come up with technology-based programs or initiatives for the community. For example, working with the community to repair electric appliances, so teaching them how to do repairs of electric appliances, and that builds up community resilience and social sustainability. It brings people together. The social enterprise could also provide consultancy services, especially to businesses that hope to come up with products and business models that are environmentally sustainable. So in that sense, the social enterprise is able to promote environmental sustainability. Then what about economic sustainability? So the social enterprise could maybe conduct digital upskilling programs for the community, and therefore promoting digital inclusion and providing the previously digitally excluded community access to livelihood opportunities. A good example would be Sustainable Living Lab. It originated in Singapore, but today they are also in Indonesia and India. So over the years, they have designed some innovative solutions to social problems. They have conducted a lot of workshops and training programs for children, for youth, for adults on technologies and innovation. And more recently, they have been providing consultancy services to businesses. Finally, the sixth issue that we are interested to explore further would be how do we get an innovation to cross boundaries? So this could be cultural boundaries, it could be international boundaries. So if we want to cross a cultural or international boundary, do we need to adapt the innovation? Second issue would be how do we get people from different sociocultural backgrounds to adopt the innovation? Do we have to pay attention to the sociocultural differences? And third would be if we are crossing the international boundary, there are all these complications like intellectual property protection, where do we get funding, human resource management issues, and also we probably need to develop new organizational partnerships in the country that we are moving into. So these are currently the 6 topics that we are interested in exploring further. So I invite all of you to consider joining us if you are interested in technological innovation. So thank you very much, and back to you, Rina.
Thank you so much, Professor Theo. I think it's really, really clear. And then I really like it, you know, like when there's a lot of buzzword, especially in the Sustainable Development Goals discussion on science, technology, and innovation. And then also a lot of, like kind of critical perspective on the science, technology, innovation. But this is something that I think what you laid out is something, what kind of technology and innovation that we can promote, right? As from the communities, from the people, listen to the community themselves, the one who co-created, community themselves who wants to actually look into their assets and their strength and etc. So I think it's as a very good presentation, Professor Theo.
Thank
And
you.
then, yes. And then, yeah, I would love to hear more later about that. So now we are actually already in the time for our discussion. So I actually try what I did when the speaker is speaking. I try to put together some of the questions that already, in place in the chat box. I think that for Lisa, there's this comments about how about adding access to renewable energy, not any kind of, other kind of energy, but renewable energy to the 8th guiding principle. Is it possible? And then also, I think that there's also a question from Killian. Killian asked that, or make a comment that we have an intervention like loans, technical extension to help improve the economic life of their farmers. Yeah, there is Killian work in the integrated cooperative in Cagayan, the Oro City. Is it possible to access some of your evaluation tools to measure the impact of your intervention and have the tools as reference in crafting our own evaluation tool? This is already a place for sharing. I really love it, right? And then also for Selena, so Selena is like, I think it's more like comments, a very positive reaction that from really nice to learn about the People's Mass work and the reusable sanitary napkin, reaching out to local communities to achieve the SDGs of hygiene and women empowerment. And then it's really related to goal 5 to goal 6. And yeah, and I think that I want to also to have a comments on that, Selena, if you can. And then I don't see any other in the chat box, so I'm going to stop at that first while people are thinking. I know that we only have like 4 minutes before we stop, but let's see, maybe we can extend a little bit, like 10 minutes for the next discussion. So Lisa and also Selena, want to hear from you.
So maybe I could just be as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the question from on renewable energy. Of course, renewable energy is a very important aspect of sustainable consumption and production. So I think the suggestion that we add an 8th might be, the counter suggestion that we actually have is to just give more focus to renewable energy when we talk about sustainable consumption and production, because sustainable consumption and production talks about the whole value chain, no? And renewable energy can actually be used in production, in processing, in marketing, and in all aspects. So I guess maybe we would just need to incorporate, even the guidelines, therefore, a specific section or sub-guideline on promotion of renewable energy, and that's very well taken. So on the point regarding accessing our evaluation tools, we're very happy to announce to you that we have a website where we have uploaded all the evaluation tools. We have evaluation tools for agricultural value chain program holders. We have evaluation tools for SMEs and social enterprises. And we also have evaluation tools for corporate agribusinesses. So depending on what you are, you can actually access the tool from our website, and it's for free because it's public domain. And if you're wanting our assistance in order for it to be useful to you, we actually have a team of consultants and technical specialists who can assist you with the use of the tools. We haven't uploaded everything, of course, because it's quite impossible, but we are ready to respond to how we can help you make the tools useful for you. So we're at the moment working with 7 social enterprises, as well as inclusive businesses and SMEs, as well as corporate agribusinesses in Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. And these are at the pilot stage. We're hoping that this piloting stage until July can actually be used to learn lessons, to improve the tools that we have developed in order for us to roll it out more massively after July this year. So please feel free to get in touch with us. Download our tools, yeah. And if you need our assistance, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And then Killian, I hope you are clear on that. And then it's so nice to know, because I also feel like I want to look at the website and then upload the evaluation, because it's really related to our work also, Lisa, for APWLD and women's rights. All right, so one more, Selena. I think that Selena, people want to hear from you. If you can actually just give like, you know, some feedback or comments of the what people here talking about, like really nice to learn about the people's mass work and reusable and sanitary napkins. If you want to elaborate on that, please feel free.
Thanks, Reena. I'm not going to switch my camera on because I'm having some unstable connection. Just to, I hope that's okay. So just to maybe elaborate on the People's Mask initiative. Truly, Reena, it was something wonderful at that time, because I, in fact, am a beneficiary of that initiative. Because what we saw with the WFTO Asia spearheading this right at the end of COVID, and the way that it mobilized, it was truly, I mean, now in hindsight, it was this textbook mobilization during crisis, you know, but we lived it and we pivoted so fast, and we were able to mobilize the networks and the, like, you know, we would talk to each other about our concerns, you know, everything that is in textbooks about collaborations and partnerships we saw during this first 2 months of the lockdown last year. And it was truly wonderful. And I can say my own organization, one of the reasons that we were able to not lay off any of our workers, and our extended network to keep giving them decent work, was a huge part of it. That was the People's Mask Initiative. And not only were we able to like kind of pivot and use that for our own company, but the inspiration that it gave to rest of SMEs, even like I can talk for the Sri Lankan case about how SMEs and how, I mean, SMEs, not just social enterprises, how we were able to really kind of protect our people, that there was no need to um, that, you know, we were the backbone of the economy and the community at that time. And I think more than anything, it was just a wonderful experience and a true inspiration for people like us in the social enterprise sector, that what we were doing was correct. You know, our approach is right, that people come first, planet comes first, profit comes after. And I think more than anything, it was that inspiration that the initiative gave. And I mean, just to add on to, and those were some of the, that experience only has enabled us as an organization too, to look at how our other products can address social issues, you know. So it's a truly circular economy. It's not just about creating a beautiful product, artisanal product, but how that artisanal product is going to go on to help community and to help the people. Help, I don't like that word, but to create this value chain that is really working. So I think that's what I want to add on that. And I think you can find more information on the WF2 Asia website. Also, I will drop the hashtag for the name of my organization. Follow us, see what we do. I think all the fair traders across the world are really taking their place now. You know, we've been talking about this for years and years, but now finally what we're saying is is the correct thing for the world. So it's fantastic to live that experience.
Selena, thank you so much. And then please do, if you can, maybe you can put like WTFO website address here in the chat box. I really want to know. Oh, Gomer is already doing it. Gomer is already doing it, Selena. So okay, it's really amazing. And I think that it's beautiful the way that you say how we can also feel it when we are actually doing things right. And then it's really the people's come first, the community comes first, the profit comes later. Oh my God, that's really beautiful. Thank you for highlighting that. And then also, I don't see any, for the next session, I don't see any questions. And then I think that we already passed our time. Yeah, so what I want to ask is actually because we need to wrap up, we will ask like each of our speakers to talk about, have like their last words. It can be just 1 minute, or even less. It's up to you. What is actually your last word for this side event for the participants who are actually coming here? Yeah, so we can probably start with maybe Professor Theo. Professor Theo, you want to start?
Okay, sure, sure, Rina. So the only thing I would like to add is I think there's a lot of potential for technology, for innovation to play a big role in uplifting the poor. And very often we forget that it need not be some fancy, expensive technology, but even frugal innovations can make such a big difference. They really do. So that's the last thing I would like to share.
Amazing. Technology for the poor, technology for the people.
Yes.
Professor Theo, amazing. Now I want to ask maybe who will, Lanying?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I think in the process of doing the rural revitalization, I think we really value the traditional wisdom and ecological wisdom, and use is the key. So no matter where the areas we focus, linking with food security or the market chains, and we will work with the smallholder farmers to develop the ecological economy for the benefit of the rural community, and with integration of urban rural balanced development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lanying. Yeah, I also take note of that. The traditional and ecological wisdom is very, very important. Thank you so much for that last round of the comments. And then now I'm going to give it to Dr. Yenny. Dr. Yenny, are you there? Yeah. Can I see? Can I
Yes,
hear from
I'm
you?
here.
That's good.
Thank you. My closing statement is health is everyone's right. Collaboration and cooperation of all parties can help everyone in pandemic era. The keyword are how we can play a role from our smalls to share for other. This is my closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yenny. Thank you for that. And then I agree that health for all, right? And then we need to have our key role for everyone. Thank you. And then now I give it to Selena again. Selena.
Yes,
Another
Rina, thank
punchy words. Another.
yes.
Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
So I mean, I didn't have the time to support this argument to say, but I think transparency, Rina, we have to, as business, think about transparency. How do we enable greater transparency to provide decent work to our people? I think the fair trade community is leading this, but we have to do better. How do we integrate technology, like Professor Theo said? How do we integrate technology to have better transparency. And these are some of the things that we seriously need to talk about and think about at this moment. Those
Yeah.
are my last remarks, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Selena. And it's very reflective remarks. I think it's very, very true. I really think that transparency and also our own accountability is also very, very, very important for that. And then one last one, but not the least, Lisa.
Yes, thank you, Rina. Yeah, I think the last word that I would like to share is that, as you can see, all the 5 platforms that are at different stages of development. And our platform is actually one of the more advanced because we're already working at the regional level. And we're already engaging not only social enterprises, but also inclusive businesses, corporates, and other agricultural value chain players. And we're hoping that through the benchmarks and through the guidelines and working with all of you, we would be able to create impact to the point that we're able to change the face of agricultural value chains in Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that we can also show models for this in the ASEAN, where we are strongest at the moment, because we are working in the ASEAN countries, no? And focusing on Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam at the moment. That's where most of our interventions are, because that's where we have had the initial partners in the agricultural value chains. We're hoping to demonstrate impact and then replicate in all other parts of Asia Pacific. And maybe as a last point, Rina, I would just like to say that we have a cross-cutting initiative across the various 5 platforms, because I think for social enterprises to participate as accelerators of the SDGs, we need to recover, yeah. So that as a cross-cutting initiative, we're trying to develop a social enterprise recovery initiative where we can have a social enterprise recovery program that would assist not only the bigger social enterprises that you see here, you know, but actually the smaller social enterprises, so that they can actually also recover from the pandemic with the poor that they serve and become accelerators for the SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And then I'm actually not going to try to conclude anything, because I think the 5 speakers already make a very, very good concluding remark, especially Lisa at the end. Lisa, it is amazing. And just a note that from, I think this is from Selena. So Selena, I just want to actually emphasize again what she meant is actually greater transparency in supply chains to enable decent work. So yeah, so that will be that. And then
Rina, aren't you going to have a picture taking?
Yes, we will. We will. Don't worry. Don't worry. We I keep on getting Rina, video. Okay. So now what we're going to do? Don't go. We need to take our picture taken. Selena, I hope that you can join us and have just one video with us. So I'm going to please open your video, everyone.
Yeah.
And then
Hi everyone. So I will be the one taking the photo. We have about 3 pages here, and thank you for staying throughout the program. Okay, so I'm waiting for a few people to turn on their cameras. Okay, first page. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, next page. Okay. We're still waiting for a few people to turn on their cameras. Okay. Second page. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, last page. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I don't know. I didn't know which page am I, so I keep on smiling. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been a very great pleasure to moderate this session. Thank you, everyone. And then see you again. There will be another chance for us to meet and then learn from each other. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Rina. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Rina, for moderating the session.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Rina.
Thanks, Lisa.